And looking back in hindsight at all these oscillators that are in the PPO Extreme chart, I noticed that back on October 17th, 2022, I did not notice the positive divergence here between all these oscillators and price. In fact, I was so focused on the volatility of the ROC1 and ATR2 that I forgot to look at price, or did not even have it included in this chart back then, but it looks like I realized my mistake. So let's take a look at that mistake. So back then, I did not have the KST, or the ultimate oscillator, on this chart along with the price for the S&P 500 daily. And even though I did do some buying at the absolute low when it hit the bottom of this green gap zone going back to 2020, I was pounding the table as a buying area there, and I did do a little bit of buying, but not as much as I should have. And again, this is the NYA daily chart for back then, so I was focusing on that too, along with the S&P 500. And in the S&P 500, the oscillators here on the 13th, you can see we're all pointed up, with this divergence starting on September 30th. Let's go up and look at price and the AD line. So here's price on the 30th of September. There was a peak there, and then the valley here on the 13th right there. Same thing with the AD line. So over here is the 30th, right around there, maybe a little later for the AD line on the 4th, but nonetheless on the 13th there's the absolute low there. So we have downwards trajectories on price and the AD line, and they're both quite steep, as we can see. And then on the oscillators themselves, they have slight positive divergences to price in the AD line, so that would have been a tough call back then to have the AD line pointed straight down along with price, and then all these other oscillators pointed up, momentum oscillators that we use for divergences. So that was a tough call, but was a good clue to start legging in again. And then looking back at the AD line for the S&P 500 daily, you can see if the divergence started here and there was this rising valleys trend line, or slight uptrend line you could call it. So when it broke above that uptrend line right there, that would have been the buying opportunity of a lifetime, as that divergence here that is negative here and positive down here on the oscillators would have been rectified. So the moral of this story is we did catch the bottom a bit, but we could have done better if we included the price chart here along with the AD and was looking at that in comparison to these divergences here. And now I have included an excerpt from back then, video 393 on 10-24-2022 for the PPO Extreme, if you would like to see what we were talking about back then. And let's take a look at the ROC1, ATR2, and PPO Extreme chart. And you can see the volatility, euphoric state, pain, euphoria, pain, euphoria. So maybe this will look like the June up run, and if it does, you can see right here at the end of June it made one last tag of the negative volatility line at negative 2.0 here, and then it just stayed in the euphoric state, came back down and just barely went under the negative pain threshold at negative 2.0, but not by much, and then it went back to the euphoric state. Actually came down here around neutral zero, continued going up, back to the euphoric state line, and then back down to the pain threshold. And let me correct myself, the negative volatility line right here in blue is at negative 1.0. This is the negative pain threshold, negative 2.0 and below. So maybe it can settle down and look like this and just have a lot of fun up in the euphoric state area. But it really has a lot of simmering down to do looking at that. Here's the PPO Extreme. You can see it's above this negative 10 3/4 horizontal line. And the percentage of stocks in the S&P 500 above their 20-day simple moving average went into the green zone. I like to see that. It needs to look like this here, so that matches the rock 1 where it was just having 4 rays up into the euphoric state line and staying here between 80 and 90 for the 20 simple moving average. So that's about as good as it gets, like that. And the AD line for the daily S&P 500, it looks like the stock's only in the NYSE. Didn't do much on that huge candle on Friday. The other day it did. What was that, Wednesday, I guess? Had a nice bump up, but did not reflect that Friday move. It's still below its 21 EMA signal line and not that close to getting back above this rising valleys trend line here. Needs to do that. And MACD went back above its signal line here at a pretty low level, around negative 80, and it started to head back up towards zero. Hopefully it doesn't run out of steam when it gets there. We need to monitor that. And RSI made it above 50, it's at 51.14 on balance volume. Looks like the NYA exactly, just not much there for that Friday move.